After a grueling 21 hours in the air, my flight from Narita Airport to Copenhagen Airport finally descends. This was my first time flying alone and flying into Europe. Probably my first time flying for so long, if I'm thinking about it. I'm really bad with altitude sickness. I get all woozy and nauseous, so I was incredibly grateful to finally have my legs on firm ground. Although, it does mean I spent most of the first day just trying to orient myself, getting over jet lag, and taking a shower. I took a really long nap, which was very nice. My second day, I went to Miru, probably one of the first location names I can actually pronounce. You'll have to forgive me for not saying names of other places, or making mistakes along the way. I'm pretty unfamiliar with European languages, but Denmark's really English-friendly, which surprised me. Although, I promise to do my best next time I'm traveling. Look at this little bee. I was really amazed by how well preserved everything felt. It was so historical, even with all the signs and billboards around. You can get a sense that a lot of history took place here. Cobblestone roads and brick houses. Honestly, if you took all the signage away, it would look straight out of a fantasy novella. Maybe I just read too many of those, though. You'll have to tell me.
That's adorable.
Along the way, I discovered this little rubber ducky store, and then something like 3 more of them. Do tourists like rubber duckies that much? Or is this some elaborate tax evasion scheme? I still haven't quite gotten to the bottom of it, but I did not buy any rubber duckies. You can see from my footage how I was really trying to capture everything. Since this is my first time recording footage like this, I'll have to be better with recording in the future. If you have any advice for that, please go ahead and let me know. In the meantime, you'll have to enjoy all the gorgeous scenery, though. Really, the buildings were so gorgeous. It might have been my favorite part. I've never seen architecture like this. At least, not real architecture like this. Just like recreations, if that makes sense. So, it was really unique for me to get to see buildings so historical and all these cobblestone roads. Just so beautiful. My second day, I went to the Copenhagen Zoo to visit my distant cousin, the illustrious brown bear. They seem really lively and full of energy. Look at the mama bear waddle into the tunnel. And then we have the far less impressive panda, a hallmark of sin and gluttony alike. Well, I guess this one wasn't so lazy. He was probably on a mission to eat babies or something. The next day, I went to this absolutely darling bookstore and cafe called Paladin's Book and Cafe, aptly titled. It was lined head to toe with all kinds of books from all kinds of time periods, and I really enjoyed the atmosphere. It felt so cozy. I wish I could just take it back home with me. I also had this really delicious salmon wrap and some super sour lemonade. If you're ever visiting or in the area, I'd really recommend it. It was so nice. And then the rest of the day, I spent visiting lots and lots of different bookstores. I was actually pretty surprised by how many English bookstores, or how many bookstores had English sections. And, you know me, I had to buy tons of books. I only ended up getting 3, even though I had 2 in my carry-on. But that's neither here nor there. Then, for dinner, I went to this outdoor food market, and I got some goat cheese mac and cheese. I think it was goat cheese. And I am a sucker for cheesy pasta, so it was heavenly. don't normally do guided tours, but guided boat tours are a different story. I was really surprised by how nice it was. Since so much of the inner city of Copenhagen is made up of canals that all eventually lead into the open ocean, there's a lot of it that you can actually see from the water. And what there is to see, of course, absolutely darling. I'm a very big sucker for old architecture, especially seeing all the restaurants and small shops lining the water. Feels something out of like a Pinterest board of mine. Just a perfect aesthetic. Seeing so many of these boats on the water, especially the ones that look like tiny houses, makes me wonder what it'd be like to live in a boat. Apparently lots of people sell their homes just to live on the water, since it's technically cheaper. But I think sailing away would be way too tempting. I'll just sail away from all my problems, all my homework, all my taxes. The lady in charge of the tour gave a lot of interesting information, but unfortunately I was too busy watching all the boats to really pay attention to it. I'm sure it was good though. While we're here watching the water go by, just like to say that if you're enjoying the video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe. That's all. Thank you. Oh, and you can check out my memberships as well. I'd be really grateful if you can join. And if you're a member, you're probably seeing this early. So, thank you so much for your support. Apparently while we were out in the open ocean, there was the royal yacht sailing by. But I had no idea until after we got off the boat and the tour offhandedly mentioned it. So I didn't get any footage of it, but apparently it's a pretty rare sight to see. You can also see after this boat passes under the bridge, the Church of Our Savior, with something like 400 steps to get to the top of the tower. Suffice it to say, I did not go because my shoes are not built for that. But it is a really beautiful sight, just seeing it tower, for lack of a better word, over the entire city. It stands out among the rest of the architecture with a striking black and gold color palette, coming in complete contrast to the otherwise brown bricks and green leaves surrounding it. After the boat ride, I made my way to Frederick's church, his giant marble dome of a building. It's really amazing to think that this was built without any of the modern tools we have today, like forklifts. I wonder what the acoustics would be like for ASMR. Straight down the road from the church is the Danish Queen Palace. I don't think any royalty was staying there at the time, though, except for yours truly. Although, if I were living here, I'd definitely add a bit more greenery around the place. Bit too much brick and brown. But all the same, I can picture myself waving at the peasants from below with a fancy gold-plated cup of tea and some Danish dessert I can't pronounce the name of. On second thought, I'd definitely live here. A second bee has hit the camera roll. The next day I went to Tivoli. Some people refer to it as Denmark's Disneyland, so I went in anticipation of scaring away freakish mice and weird costumes, but thankfully there was none of that. And instead what we got were some pretty cool roller coasters. The park grounds were super pretty. It was honestly really nice to just wander through them. Lots of little flower gardens and greenery. Although, I noticed all of Copenhagen is really green in general, which I really love. There are also quite a few ducks. And I ended up going on this loop-de-loop roller coaster like 5 separate times. I really like roller coasters. Finally stepping outside the city for a little bit, I went to visit Kronborg Castle, starting at a local food market for some breakfast. This castle was actually the setting for Shakespeare's Hamlet, so there's quite a bit of Hamlet memorabilia scattered around the castle grounds. I actually ended up getting this little metal bookmark. I really like bookmarks as souvenirs since they're pretty low-key and easy to take home, but they'll always remind you when you went somewhere. At least, that's how I feel. The castle was originally built as a medieval fortress, but was eventually co-opted and transformed into a Renaissance castle, sitting atop a hill looking out over the ocean. Across the way you can even see Sweden. Maybe if you were really dedicated, you could totally swim all the way there. But the water's really cold, so I wouldn't even bother. The inside of the castle was staged like it was still inhabited, fit with all the ornate Renaissance-era pieces you'd expect. I'd definitely live here in a heartbeat. Fit for a teddy bear like me, I'd say. Back in Copenhagen, there's Rosenborg Castle. Far smaller, but no less regal, no less fit for a queen like me. With a rose garden and a public garden just beyond its moat. I didn't end up going inside this castle. The line was a bit too long for my tastes. But I did find a pile of geese. I was tempted to hug one, until someone next to me got too close and honked at. Bears don't mess with geese. But bears do mess with museums. The Natural History Museum, to be precise. All the animals, insects, and rock specimens were super wonderfully maintained. It was absolutely lovely to walk through. Check this out. There's another bear. And look at this giant wall of butterflies, all the different kinds and colors. And the little tiger family. But seeing baby animals on display is a little tragic, if I'm being honest. There aren't a lot of good ways to get this up and close with so many different kinds of animals, so being able to look really closely at them is always something I enjoy.
They're a lot bigger than I thought. Yeah.
There was even a little otter, posed just like he was gliding through the water. And look at this silly looking wolf. Well, I suppose some are preserved better than others. They even let me pet one of the otters. Take a look at the mink, who's so soft. No wonder we hunted them for their pelts. Sorry, Mika. On the second floor were rows and rows of just about every stone you could imagine. I, of course, am fond of the pink ones. Next to the rocks was a display of award-winning natural photography. All kinds of photos that make you wonder how someone could be patient enough to capture it. I felt awful for this poor seal, though, cornered by 4 orcas, repentant in his expression. Rest well, my blubbery friend. When you buy tickets for the National Museum, you get free entry to the Botanical Gardens next door, so I obviously had to stop by. I mentioned before how I loved being surrounded by all the green. It's so refreshing to be right in the middle of all of it. Some areas inside were warm and humid, like home. Others were cool, like the Danish air, but they were all equally green and pretty. There was even a portion of the botanical garden just for butterflies. A butterfly garden. I had a couple land on me, which made me really happy. But I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't wear bright colors on purpose just so that they would. Did you know that butterflies like bright colors? That's why you always have to wear bright pink whenever you go to visit a butterfly garden. Just a little tip. The view outside the botanical gardens is just stunning. The wind whippling through the water, swaying the trees. All the white and glass building to contrast all the green. A scene like something out of a landscape painting, or even a picture book. I agree. Equally as gorgeous was the National Library of Copenhagen, a recently rebuilt space with one half modern architecture and the other half the historical building. There were study halls inside the historical side that were just jaw-dropping. I wish I could have shown you, but unfortunately no electronics were permitted inside. So, instead I hunkered down with a good book for a quiet moment or two. The modern side of this building tickled my fancy a little less, but had this great glass wall overlooking the canal into the ocean. The same ocean the boat ride was in. You can overlook the rest of the floors and watch all the people bike and boat away. My last day in Denmark unfortunately attacked me with rain, but fret not. When it let up, it led to an absolutely stunning view and a couple of distant rainbows. Maybe see if you can catch them in the background. I also went to the canal for a swim. It was warm outside, but the water was deceptively cold. I don't think I grasped that until I fully jumped in. Brrr. And just like that, my vacation has come to an end. It was a little bittersweet to come home. There's so many things I love about Tokyo, but returning back from a vacation is always a bit of a melancholic experience. I'll certainly miss all the green and the pastries, and just how laid back it felt. I ended up taking a cab home, so like and subscribe for my wallet.